should I your true love know from another man? By his cockle hat and his staff and his sandal shoon.
So often we see these little waifish Ophelias, right? I mean, think of, the paintings, think of all sorts of Ophelias in the past. Think of a boy actor versus a grown man, right? There's a power dynamic there.
I feel like she almost like lost her marbles and her brain become very, very scattered, and she was almost in complete denial of the situation and trying to find other ways to cope with the situation, and she kind of lost herself by the end.
I remember like the image of her like in her death when she was just like in the water, like surrounded by like plants and everything, just like laying there. And even that is like kind of like romanticized and pretty. And yeah, but she's definitely like the things she's saying definitely aren't making sense. And she is like crazy at that point.
And then randomly she's singing and she kind of just seems all over the place mentally.
Distracted, disheveled, a mess, a hot mess, hysterical.
She was looking a hot mess, which is understandable. She went through it.
A hysterical girl. A poor, frail, drowned madwoman. For centuries, plays, TV shows, paintings, books, and songs have made Ophelia into a cultural icon of female fragility. Ever since Shakespearean audiences listened to Gertrude's account of Ophelia's watery death, she has become a romanticized, tragic girl with no agency or voice of her own.
Her clothes spread wide, and mermaid-like a while they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old lauds, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and endued unto that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lay to muddy death.
Even before the audience sees Ophelia descend into madness, she is depicted as pitiable and despairing. In her only soliloquy, she laments her inability to take control of her situation.
Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown! The courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, sword, the expectation and rose of the fair state, the glass of fashion and the mold of form, the observed of all observers, quite down. And I, of ladies most deject and wretched, that sucked the honey of his musicked vows. Now, see what noble and most sovereign reason, like sweet bells jangled out of time, and harsh, that unmatched form and stature of blown youth blasted with ecstasy. Oh, woe is me, to have seen what I have seen, see what I see.
But this sad, distracted Ophelia isn't the only Ophelia that exists. Just like the Hamlet that we have all grown to know isn't the only one that exists. There are 3 versions of Hamlet, though usually only a combination of the later 2 versions, the second quarto and the folio, are performed. Performances of the first quarto, which was published in 1603, are hardly known to modern audiences. In this first quarto, we see an Ophelia with the potential to be more outspoken than her popular counterpart. Prop changes and line differences provide the possibility of a new Ophelia, one who sings, who performs, and who pushes back, an Ophelia that can be far different from the wispy, hysterical girl that has become a cultural icon.
So you have to then think about, well, what is the whole play doing for readers, for audiences, if you have an Ophelia that's willing to be that powerful, that is granted a chance, to be that powerful? Because again, as I argue in in my text, in my article, I think that's some of the choice there, right? That it becomes about, a sense of theatricality, that the performers have the moment and the choice and the ability to do what they want to do at that moment. You could still sort of take the Q1 text and have a domineering Hamlet and a very, demure Ophelia. I think that's still potentially there. But you also have the chance to not do that. Whereas Q2 tends to direct our attentions more. It tends to invest a lot more of our focus and thoughts onto Hamlet himself.
Two Q1 scenes in particular help create this more outspoken Ophelia: the nunnery scene and the lute scene.
So there are three different versions of Hamlet and three different versions, therefore, of the stage direction related to Ophelia and her lute. So the folio stage direction reads, "Enter Ophelia distracted." And that word distracted can help us kind of conjure a lot of the stereotypes we might have of Ophelia. The Q2, Ophelia is much more curt, "Enter Ophelia," that's it. But the Q1 stage direction, which is interesting considering that Q1 is a much more edited and shorter version of Hamlet, is actually a lot longer. So it goes, "Enter Ophelia, playing on a lute, and her hair down, singing."
See where the young Ophelia is.
How should I your true love know from another man? By his cockle hat and his staff and his sandal shoon, white as shroud as mountain snow, larded with sweet flowers, that bewept to the grave did not go with true lovers' showers. He is dead and gone, lady, he is dead and gone. At his head a grass-green turf, at his heels a stone.
We have Ophelia as a performer. We have her singing. So what we see coming in that scene is a character who's actually offering a performance, not someone who's expressing the madness of her inner torment. The lute affects how the characters in the scene perceive Ophelia as well. So, the lute says this is a performance. The lute, as a skill, says, look what I can do. And the lute is an instrument that allows self-expression, and song says, listen to me.
She pushes, she defies.
So in Q2 and F, we get this whole introduction about, oh my God, Ophelia, the wild and whirling, her words are nothing. We're set up for this expectation of this hysterical, mad, wild and whirling nothing. But what we have instead in the Q1 Hamlet is the king saying, how stands it with you? How are you doing? And Ophelia then has the opportunity to, with her instrument, say, well, let me tell you.
How is it with you, sweet Ophelia?
Well, God yield you. It grieves me to see how they laid him in the cold ground. I could not choose but weep. And will he not come again? And will he not come again? No, he's gone, and we cast away moan. And he never will come again. His beard as white as snow, all flaxen was his poll. He is dead, he is gone, and we cast away moan.
So she proceeds in a very coherent way through the three songs that she sings. In Q2 and F, we have snippets of song interspersed with dialogue and interrupted by Gertrude and Claudius. And in the Q1 Hamlet, we have an Ophelia who's allowed to sing her song and complete it. So there's a real sense of order and coherence to what really is kind of Ophelia's playlist.
Though the Q2 and F version of Ophelia is robbed of her agency when she is interrupted by others, the Q1 Ophelia uses interruptions to her advantage.
If my argument is accurate, and if you buy what I'm reading in the differentiation of power between Ophelia and Ophelia, Q1 versus Q2, then one of the reasons that change could have taken place is, as this question suggests, because of audience reaction, right? That something about the dynamic between a Hamlet Ophelia that's more equal, more aggressive, even potentially on her behalf, sort of, pushing in there through crafting and creating interruptions, was something that maybe didn't fly very well with audiences, didn't seem to be a good moment for the company. So causing Shakespeare, again, if we buy that this is Shakespeare's early text, as Terry Boris has argued, and Shakespeare revises and lessens her role, makes it more about Hamlet, makes it less about Ophelia, and makes her more demure.
The silence of the Q2 and F Ophelia is perhaps the most notable, as Hamlet berates her, demanding that she get to a nunnery.
Get thee to a nunnery. Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? I am myself indifferent honest, but yet I could accuse me of such things that it were better my mother had not borne me. I am very proud, revengeful, ambitious, with more offenses at my beck than I have thoughts to put them in, imagination to give them shape, or time to act them in. What should such fellows as I do crawling between earth and heaven? We are errant knaves, believe none of us. Go thy ways to a nunnery. Where's your father?
At home, my lord.
Let the doors be shut upon him, that he may play the fool nowhere but in his own house. Farewell.
Oh, help him, you sweet heavens.
If thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow. Thou shalt not escape calumny. Get thee to a nunnery. Farewell. Or if thou wilt needs marry a fool, for wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. To a nunnery, go, and quickly too. Farewell.
Heavenly powers restore him.
I have heard of your paintings well enough. God hath given you one face, and you make yourselves another. You jig and amble, and you lisp. You nickname God's creatures, and make your wantonness ignorance.
In Q2 and F, Ophelia is mostly silent as Hamlet raves at her. This silence makes it more difficult for an actor to portray Ophelia as an outspoken character with agency.
To a nunnery. Go.
While the Q2 and folio Ophelia is given a few asides, the actor playing her lacks the opportunity to speak back to Hamlet in an impactful way.
A scene where Ophelia is just sitting there spewing her heart out to herself, maybe to an audience member, is different from when she's able to attack back, when she's challenging the man who is sitting there berating her.
Yet in the first quarto, Ophelia is able to interrupt Hamlet's lengthy speech more, giving the actor playing her the ability to draw the attention of both Hamlet and the audience back to her.
I never loved you.
You made me believe you did.
No, that shit's not believed me. Go to a nunnery. Go. Why shouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? I am myself indifferent, honest, but I could accuse myself of such crimes it had been better my mother had ne'er borne me. Oh, I am very proud, ambitious, disdainful, with more sins in my beck than I have thoughts to put them in. What should such fellows as I do, crawling between heaven and earth? To a nunnery, go. We are errant knaves all, believe none of us. To a nunnery, go.
Oh, heaven secure him.
Where's thy father?
At home, my lord.
For God's sake, let the doors be shut on him, for he may play the fool nowhere but in his own house. To a nunnery, go.
Help him, good God.
If thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague to thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow, thou shalt not escape calumny. To a nunnery, go.
What shade
If
is
thou
this?
wilt needs marry a fool, for wise men know well what monsters you make of them. To a nunnery, go.
God restore him.
Hey, I've heard of your paintings too.
Though Hamlet still continues on his rant despite Ophelia's interruptions, these lines help the actor playing Ophelia in Q1 vie for the audience's attention. In such an intense scene, the actor is able to create more of a voice for her character. She is able to defend herself in some way, rather than remaining mostly silent.
So on the one hand, we might think, well, this character maybe sounds in Q1 maybe a little bit less dramatic, right? A little bit less exciting. She's not falling apart all the time. She's got control. She's able to express herself clearly. But I think that actually just produces a very different set of responses. It generates a very different vision of the character.
Q1's Ophelia has the ability to interrupt and perform, which allows her to speak for herself. The additional lines in the nunnery scene, along with the use of her lute prop, help create an Ophelia who's more outspoken and in control. These seemingly minor differences give Ophelia more agency, creating a sharper contrast between the Ophelia we see in the beginning of the play and the one whose mental health declines and eventually dies a tragic death.
In the Q1 Hamlet, it's more like a decision that she has made, and she has a lot more agency over her death. And it seems to me that actually does make it more tragic, right? We can almost pass off Q2 and F's Ophelia as an accident, whereas it's perhaps much more tragic at the end of Q1 to see her taking, in full control of her senses, a fully cognizant decision about ending her life.
Q1 Hamlet has the potential to alter the tragedy of Ophelia. It offers us an Ophelia that is wildly different from the distracted, disheveled, and often silenced character we have come to know. Despite the stereotypes that surround Ophelia, the first quarto of Hamlet provides actors and directors with the opportunity to depict her as a talented artist, a more vocal young woman, and a character who has more agency and takes control of the stage.